Okay, cool. All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Sitara Zafar, and I am representing for the first half of the slides, Team Bubbles. This is our beautifully gorgeous team of women that have come together for this hackathon. And yeah, we're really great, diverse crowd. We bring a little bit of something for every aspect of this project, and it was really fun working with these ladies. So as you can see, I'm going to let you read the slide and see who they are. It's basically myself, Ruki, product designer, PUBG, project manager and producer at BBC, Julia Booth, who's senior manager experience operations at TaskRabbit, and Samira Salim, UX designer. That's us. So this is the problem. As you know, with COVID-19, there's a lockdown in the UK, but it's not just the UK, it's a global lockdown. And although you would think that crime would go down, actually domestic violence cases have shot up. I'm not sure if you've seen articles, but it's just out in the Guardian. They're mentioning statistics in this and attesting to this, that domestic violence is definitely going up. And now abusers and victims are pretty much trapped in their homes with their perpetrators with no option out that they usually may have had, whether they be visiting family or going on their daily kind of routines. So it's a real problem. And what we're really focusing on with our solution is how victims that are in distress can check in without, being seen in a discreet way. So what's the solution? We've created a wireframe for an app because we're hoping a developer will come develop this and help us out with this. But it's basically a wireframe. It's a web-based app. It's got a gaming interface. It's a really simple Bubbles game. It's kind of like Bubble Blaster. And it's meant to connect the user with the caseworker or the service provider. So this would be a B2B app. And the assumption here is that the service provider or the caseworker would have already made a connection with the user. And so, for example, if the user calls in and say it's a hotline scenario or they're calling in their caseworker, the caseworker would onboard them over the phone and say, hey, there's an app. It's called Bubbles. Download it. And they'll walk through kind of how the messaging system works. It's very intuitive. It's meant to really help those that are, just in a really violent, scary situation where it's just intuitive and they don't have to think too much about it and their perpetrator can't tell. But also if somebody accidentally takes their phone, a child or the perpetrator, then they wouldn't be able to send a notification system because they would have to do a sequence 3 times in a row to indicate a messaging. And you'll get more explanation on that by PUBG and Salim herself. They're going to walk through it. But basically, that's kind of a flavor of what the solution is. And the next slide, I'm going to go through who we're solving for. Obviously, the victim, the person that's going through the abuse. What we found while we were testing this and validating this, that this also helps and it can, provide a solution for those that are being trafficked because it's again a discrete kind of messaging system to escalate to social workers and organizations, and we were able to link with a human trafficking organization that also validated this. So it's caseworkers, service workers, human trafficking organizations. There's also a way to link in friends and family if the user wanted to notify friends and family, and just making sure that the user and the client is connected and they're just checking in a very discreet way. Next slide. So the value proposition, or just the the unique thing that's from this, is just that layer of existing support. So it's just really about getting support to that that victim or the survivor or the client or the user, whatever you want to call it, the person who needs it. But it's not just providing them that escalation of calling emergency services, of calling the authorities or the police. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but right now I know my brother is a police officer, and he was telling me that there's definitely a need for this because the police have been advised, to try to reduce their arrest because of the spread of COVID-19. So they're finding that when there is domestic violence situations, if they can, they don't take the partner or the abuser to jail. because it's a higher risk to do so. And so this is kind of one of those things where instead of putting all that pressure on the police, this allows an existing support, like putting that additional pressure or that escalation, so that the service organization out there like Refuge or 821, which is a human trafficking organization, can help with these cases and connect with the user. So what's already out there is chat boxes, a lot of phone support lines for victims, and obviously the police. There's chat bots. For example, WomenAid has a chat box that's open from 10 a.m. to 12. And then there's apps. For example, if you look at the National Center for Domestic Violence, there is an app out there, and it's showing on the slide. And these are really just for case referrals only. There's not really much out there for something discreet, so that if the perpetrator was in the same room, the victim would be able to message by just playing a game. So this is where we found that this would be the niche in the market. And yeah, and Prabhjit's going to go through the user journey.
Basically, to explain that we have two interfaces. So we have a separate app interface for the service provider. So this is the the person who is working on behalf of Women's Aid or Refuge or such organisations supporting domestic violence survivors or thrivers. The other interface is by the user themselves. So they're the one putting in the notifications via the bubbles, and then somebody else as a separate app, the caseworker, who is then collecting that data of what the bubbles are, what the notifications are per day. Yeah, does that sound okay? Cool. So this looks like the one for the service user. So just tell me when to click through and I'll click through for you.
So you first go and go to who would you play with, and yeah, so you go here and you have an intro like in any other gaming app. You go, it will take you through a run through of what you need to do. And so here you go and make another click. I think, yeah. So here you come and you have, it asks you to make 3 bursts of the bubbles. You go to the next screen after doing that. Go press it. And it says, hooray, let's begin, and let's begin. And then again, you make a click and it asks you to follow a line of bubbles. This is going to be any codes that you have kept, like 3 or 4 or 5 instructed by the SP people. You will make that code, and then
just to notify, the previous screens were an access code. This is the notification screen. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
So you go on and it says, thank you for playing. So we've tried to keep all the codes very discreet. So when it's like any other game that you go for, and it says, thank you for playing. So this is basically an indication for the user that the notification has been sent.
The service provider's version of the interface, and they would put in the name and contact number as well. And then they would, go on, Samra.
So here when they come, they will have to justify like what kind of SP people they are, like hotline, IDVA, caseworker, or a therapist. And in this bar, which says add the number of service users, you can add as many as you want. So go on the next one. And here you see the chart of what sort of alerts we have, like escalated one, amber one, safe one, additional support one. So just to show how it will be working, we have all the names of the people here right now, like Alina, Maya, and all these people, and they have all these their alerts over there. Go for the weekly view one. And then again, you have individual charts of the people, which is Alina and how they've been doing throughout the week. And the best part of this thing is that you can export all of this to your Excel sheet. So go and tap at home, home, and then you're out of the screen. Yeah, that's the flow.
Right, so so that's the user interface with the service user and provider. Those are the alert systems as we signified. Now, in terms of the route to market, the priority is that it's very discreet. So we will have, partnerships with the service providers, large organizations, who then have their caseworkers and there's, kind of individual key workers who are then connected with the users at the very outer, and that's how we intend to distribute it. We've actually had the chance to go off and do some user testing. Asma, who has been our mentor in the group, has able to bring in some people, and so has Satara. Now, this has been from the domestic violence service providers and service users, and we've also got a few service providers from the anti-sex trafficking space as well. And 77% of respondents said that they were actually very happy with it, and that it would be something they would find that their clients or their service users would find very, very useful. Now, we've had a couple of, people that weren't too sure. So far, when we looked into the responses, it's primarily because they've not really been able to understand the product. As this was remote user testing, we weren't even able to brief them over video, some of them. So I think there were some limitations when it came to remote user testing. In terms of our future, we really want to, this is the, version 1, which is the minimal viable product. It's just got the essential strip back services of the notification, and with the safety kind of features. It will be, free for all service providers and users to download and use. We then want to build this out to a multiplayer mode, which allows service users to notify more people and have a discrete, destructible messaging service, and potentially even pop-up advertising that can provide support services as ads. And the final step in this phase or process we would really love is that, larger organizations are partnering and they're able to fund the development of this, for which, we can then really hone that product down. We've, got a few instructions at the end over there for anybody who would like to use a test, or anybody who knows people that work in this space. Additionally, we are looking for a developer to take this further. So we really need someone to build it out. It wouldn't be a huge task. We would look at somebody taking existing open source code software from GitHub, from one of those bubble shooter games, tweaking it, but adding the security layers. That's going to be the challenge, trying to make it as discreet as possible. I think that's everything from me. I just want to say a huge thank you to my team, a few of us who aren't in this presentation at the moment, to Summer and Satara as well, and to Ricky and Julia, who can't be with us today. But and thank you for all the organisers for putting this together. It's been incredible amounts of fun.